Listen to me, the most dangerous lie the enemy will ever whisper to a man is this: you're fine. You're strong enough. You have time. That lie has sent more souls to hell than anything else. I'm not here to scare you with stories, I'm here to warn you with truth. Because the man you're about to hear from, he thought he was simply proving his manhood. He thought life was his for the taking. But just hours later, he found himself standing in the one place no man ever wants to see: hell. And by the time he realized it, there was no strength, no pride, and no escape. Pay attention. This could be the warning you never knew you needed.
It was the evening of September 14th, 2019. I can still see the flashing lights of the camera bulbs, hear the applause from the crowd, smell the faint mix of cologne and champagne in the air. That night, I was on top of the world, or so I thought. A magazine had just named me one of the most influential men under 40. My suit was tailored, my smile was sharp, and my phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from people I barely even knew. After the event, I went back to my hotel suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights blinking beneath me like stars that had fallen to earth. I remember loosening my tie, pouring myself a drink, and looking into the mirror. I told myself, this is what manhood feels like. But what happened next? I can't explain without my hands shaking even now, because just hours later I wasn't standing in that room anymore. I wasn't in my body. I was somewhere else entirely. A place where time didn't move, where the air felt heavy, and where my chest felt like it was caving in from an invisible weight. At first, I didn't even understand it. I thought maybe it was a dream, a nightmare from too much stress. But then, I felt it. An emptiness so deep it swallowed every memory of joy I had ever known. A silence that screamed louder than any applause I had ever received. I was in hell, and I couldn't scream loud enough to escape. Before I go deeper into this testimony, I want to take a moment to speak from my heart. To every single one of you who watches, listens, comments, and prays, thank you. You're not just an audience, you're a family. I've read your words in the comments. I've seen your prayer requests. I felt the sincerity in your stories. Some of you have been here since the very beginning. Others are just joining us now. But you all have one thing in common: a hunger for truth. When you share these testimonies, you're not just passing along a video. You're planting seeds that could one day save a soul. When you pray for those who've shared their stories here, you're part of their healing. And when you take these warnings seriously, heaven notices. So from the depths of my heart, thank you for standing with us. My prayer is that today's story shakes us all to our core and draws us closer to God than ever before. My name is Daniel Cole. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1983. If you had met me 5 years ago, you'd probably think I had it all figured out. I was a successful entrepreneur, invited to speak at leadership conferences, featured in magazines, and photographed at charity events. People called me a self-made man. But what no one knew was that behind the smiles, I was empty. My life was built on two things: performance and pride. Growing up, my father was strict, never telling me, "I love you, only do better." If I scored 95% on a test, he'd ask about the missing 5%. Somewhere deep inside, I believed love had to be earned. And so, I chased achievements the way a thirsty man chases water. When I got older, success became my god. Deals, money, status, women, they were all part of my definition of manhood. I thought being a man meant never showing weakness, never asking for help, never admitting fear. I went to church on Christmas and Easter, more out of tradition than conviction. God was an idea to me, not a person. Hell, that was a medieval scare tactic, I thought. A place for the worst criminals, not for people like me. But even with all my so-called success, nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake in penthouse hotel rooms, surrounded by luxury, yet feeling like a fraud. There were moments I'd stare at the ceiling and think, if this is life, why do I feel so dead inside? I kept myself busy enough to drown those thoughts. My friends were mostly business partners or people who wanted something from me. My relationships with women were shallow. I drank more than I admitted. I flirted with drugs. Socially, I'd tell myself. But my biggest addiction wasn't a substance, it was approval. There was a side of me nobody saw. The guilt I carried from compromises I made in business. The lies I told to protect my image. The people I hurt without apologizing. But I told myself, that's just the cost of making it. The truth? I was spiritually blind. I believed my good deeds, donating to charity, mentoring young entrepreneurs, somehow balanced out the wrong. I didn't understand holiness. I didn't understand grace. And I certainly didn't understand that sin isn't just the big things. It's living as if God doesn't matter. Looking back now, I realize I was the perfect candidate for the devil's trap because I thought I was safe. I thought time was on my side. I thought manhood meant control. But on that September night, control slipped from my hands in a way I never saw coming. And the next thing I knew, I was standing in a place my mind had never fully believed in. The night of September 14th should have ended like every other celebration, with me waking up the next morning, slightly hungover but ready for another meeting. Instead, it became the night everything changed. After the award ceremony, I went back to my hotel suite. The city skyline outside was glittering, the hum of traffic below faint but constant. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, loosened my tie, and sat in the armchair near the window. The last thing I remember thinking before it happened was, I've made it. Then my chest tightened. It wasn't the slow ache of anxiety. It was sharp, pressing, like an invisible hand gripping my heart. My vision blurred. The glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the carpet. I remember reaching for my phone, but my fingers felt numb. My body leaned forward, and then everything went black. I expected to wake up in a hospital bed with machines beeping. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in a bed at all. I was standing. At least I think I was standing. There was no floor beneath my feet. Just an endless gray emptiness stretching in all directions. No walls, no sky, just a space that felt alive with something I couldn't see. At first I thought, this must be a dream, but then the air shifted heavy, suffocating, pressed against my chest like judgment itself. My ears rang, not with sound, but with a low vibration that seemed to hum inside my bones. In the distance, there was nothing, yet that nothing terrified me more than any threat I'd faced in life. It wasn't silent. It was the sound of every mischance, every ignored warning, echoing in the emptiness. I tried to speak, to call out, but my voice felt swallowed before it could leave my throat. And then I realized I was completely alone. No friends, no admirers, no applause. Every title I'd earned, every possession I'd owned, they meant nothing here. That's when it hit me. I wasn't dreaming. I had died. A heat began to rise, not like the warmth of the sun, but like standing too close to something that wanted to consume me. It wasn't fire I saw, but I could feel the intent of fire, like judgment breathing against my skin. And then came the awareness, the terrifying, undeniable truth that I had no part with God. Every memory of moments I had brushed him aside flooded my mind like waves. The sermons I half listened to, the Bible verses I ignored, the times I told myself, later, I wanted to repent. I wanted to scream, God, I'm sorry. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't the place for repentance. This was the place where time had run out. The sorrow there, it wasn't just mine. It was as if the air itself was soaked in regret. Millions of voices, all wordless, yet crying the same thing. It's too late. I don't know how long I stood there. Time didn't exist, but the dread was constant. A crushing awareness that this was separation from the one I had rejected without even realizing it. And then, in the midst of that despair, a light broke through. Faint at first, like a candle struggling in the wind, but growing until it surrounded me. It wasn't the light of the empty gray space. It was warm, pure, living. And in that light, I heard a voice calm, yet carrying an authority that made the entire emptiness tremble. Daniel, you were not ready. The voice that spoke my name didn't sound like anything human. It wasn't deep or loud in the way we think of sound. It was truth itself, filling every part of me. It was a voice that carried both unshakable authority and unbearable compassion. Daniel, you were not ready. Those words sank into me like a stone into water, rippling through my entire being. I wanted to speak, to explain, to justify my life, but I couldn't. It was as if the truth had silenced every excuse before I could form it. I gave you time, the voice continued. I called you, but you would not listen. You measured manhood by the world's standards, not mine. You built your life around yourself, not around me. I saw moments flash before me like scenes on a screen. The night I lied to close a deal, the woman I hurt and never apologized to, the Bible my grandmother gave me that I let collect dust, the Sunday mornings I chose golf over worship. They weren't random memories, they were invitations I had ignored. My chest tightened again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was grief. Not grief over losing my life, but over realizing how lightly I had treated the one who gave it to me. Lord, I finally whispered, I didn't know. The voice was gentle but firm. You knew enough to turn, but you loved your life more. I am merciful, but I am also just. Hell is not about me rejecting you. It is about you rejecting me. At that moment, the light grew brighter. I still couldn't see a figure, but I could feel him, the presence of Jesus himself. His nearness was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It was like standing in the presence of perfect love and realizing I had spent my life chasing imitations. Daniel, he said, I am giving you one more chance. Go back. Warn them. Tell them I am real. Tell them eternity is not a game. Tell them there is no manhood, no success, no freedom apart from me. And tell them I am coming soon. My knees buckled under the weight of his words. I didn't want to leave his presence, but I also knew I didn't deserve to stay. Then, almost like a hand pulling me upward, the darkness began to fade. The heat lessened, the crushing regret loosened its grip, and the gray emptiness dissolved into black. The kind of black you see when your eyes are closed. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the floor of my hotel suite. My chest was heaving, my shirt damp with sweat. The glass I had dropped was still shattered beside me, and the city lights still twinkled outside, but I was not the same man. I had been to the edge of eternity. I had stood where there was no hope, and I had heard the voice of the one who gave me a second chance. When I woke up on that hotel floor, I knew two things for certain. First, Jesus is real. Second, I had been living as if he wasn't. I didn't waste a single day pretending it hadn't happened. The very next morning, I checked out of the hotel, canceled 2 high-profile meetings, and flew home. My phone buzzed constantly, business partners wanting updates, friends inviting me out. But for the first time in years, I let the calls go unanswered. I opened the Bible my grandmother had given me years ago. Pages that had once seemed dull now felt alive, every verse heavy with meaning. I began to pray, awkwardly at first, not knowing the right words, but soon my prayers became raw conversations. I repented for the arrogance, the pride, the wasted time. I asked God to rebuild me from the inside out. The changes didn't come without cost. I walked away from certain business ventures that thrived on dishonesty. I lost friends who thought I had gone religious. I even had one man tell me, Daniel, you're throwing your life away. But the truth is, I wasn't throwing my life away. I was finally living it. Now, I speak in churches and small gatherings, telling my story. Not because I enjoy revisiting the most terrifying moment of my life, but because I know there are people just like I was, chasing approval, chasing pleasure, thinking they have time. I live with urgency now. Every day is an opportunity to draw closer to the one who saved me, and to warn others before it's too late. Manhood, I've learned, isn't about power, control, or independence. It's about humility before God, obedience to His word, and the courage to follow Him no matter the cost. And every night when I lay my head down, I thank Him, not just for sparing my life, but for sparing my soul. Friend, listen to me. Hell isn't just a place. It's the unbearable weight of knowing you rejected the only one who loved you enough to die for you. It's the silence of an eternity without hope, without light, without another chance. I don't share this to entertain you. I share it because time is shorter than you think. You don't know if you have another day, another hour, another breath. If you've been living for yourself, if you've been telling yourself you'll get right with God later, stop. Later is not promised. Jesus is calling you now. Run to Him. Don't trade eternity for temporary applause, money, or pleasure. Nothing is worth your soul. I got a second chance. You may not. Choose Him today while you still can. Have you ever had a spiritual encounter that changed the way you see life or eternity? I'd love to hear it. Your story might be the very thing God uses to wake someone else up. If this testimony spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below. Tell us how God has touched your life or how we can pray for you. And if you've been feeling that gentle tug in your heart while listening, don't ignore it. That's not just emotion. That's the Spirit of God calling you closer. Thank you for spending these moments with me today. May God keep you safe, steady your heart, and draw you nearer to Him every day. Do you believe hell is real? I don't ask that to frighten you. I ask because what you believe about eternity shapes how you live today. I've been there, and I can tell you, it's not a risk worth taking. Have you had a moment where God got your attention? Share it in the comments. Someone else might find hope in your words. If the story moved you, share it. Let it be a seed planted in someone's heart. Thank you for listening. May God keep you, guide you, and prepare you. Until next time, stay ready.